The transport pod shook as it entered the docking bay. Jiho gripped his seat and watched through the small window as the Valdris hunting grounds came into view. The space station was massive, bigger than anything he had ever seen. It orbited a dying star that glowed red like burning coal. The station's metal surface reflected the crimson light, making it look like something from a nightmare. The pod landed with a heavy thud. Jiho took a deep breath and stood up. He was wearing simple combat gear, nothing fancy. His pack contained basic supplies, water tablets, a knife, rope, and a small medical kit. He looked at himself in the reflective surface of the pod's wall. Short black hair, dark eyes, and a face that his students back home said looked too kind for someone who taught survival skills. He was not tall, not muscular, just average. Just Jiho from the Korean mountains. The door opened with a hiss. Sound hit him like a wave. The docking bay was filled with noise. Aliens of all kinds moved through the massive space. Ships came and went. Traders shouted. And everywhere there were hunters. Jiho stepped out and immediately felt small. To his left, a group of Kraith warriors stood talking. They were reptilian creatures covered in dark green scales that looked like armor. Each one was at least 3 meters tall with arms as thick as tree trunks. Their yellow eyes glowed in the dim light. Sharp teeth showed when they spoke. To his right, 4-armed Thoraxians practiced combat moves. Their movements were fast and brutal. Each of their 4 arms ended in claws that could tear through metal. Their skin was rough like stone, colored in shades of brown and gray. Further away, Velcron assassins moved through the shadows. They looked like giant insects standing upright, with chitinous armor covering their bodies. Their multiple eyes missed nothing. Jiho knew they could see in almost total darkness and could move without making a sound. He started walking toward the registration area. Every step felt wrong. The gravity was slightly different here, slightly heavier than Earth's. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. Around him, the other hunters made the floor shake with their weight. Then someone noticed him. Look.
Look at this!
A voice boomed through the bay. It was a Kraith, even bigger than the others. His scales were darker, almost black, and covered in scars. He pointed at Jiho with a clawed finger. The Earthborn has arrived. Laughter erupted around them. More hunters turned to look. The Kraith walked closer, each step making the floor vibrate. He leaned down, bringing his massive head close to Jiho's face. His breath smelled like rotting meat. I am Vekrash, champion of the Kraith Dominion. And you, little soft skin, are the human? He said the word human like it was a joke. Earth must truly have nothing if they send this to the Centennial Hunt. More laughter. A Thoraxian called out, I bet he does not last 1 day. Another voice added, 1 day? I give him 1 hour. Jiho kept his face calm. He had dealt with bullies before. Back home, some students thought his quiet nature meant he was weak. They learned differently, but here he was truly outmatched in size and strength. He knew it. They knew it. The entire galaxy would know it soon. Maybe Earth thinks this is a joke, Vekrash continued. Maybe they send their weakest as entertainment for us real hunters. He straightened up and looked at the crowd. What do you think, brothers? Should we ask the organizers to give the human a toy weapon? Maybe a stick to defend himself? The crowd roared with laughter. Some aliens were hitting each other on the back, finding it all very funny. Jiho noticed that not everyone was laughing, though. Some hunters watched silently, their expressions unreadable, and in the shadows near a support column, one figure stood completely still. It was another Kraith, but different from the others. He was older, his scales lighter and covered in more scars than Jiho could count. One of his eyes was milky white, blind, but the other eye watched everything. He wore no armor, just simple dark cloth. Something about him made even Vekrash's group keep their distance. Jiho walked past Vekrash without responding to the taunts. The big Kraith seemed disappointed that the human did not react. Running already, Softskin? The hunt has not even started! At the registration desk, a bored-looking alien with tentacles processed Jiho's documents. Earth representative Jiho confirmed. The alien's voice was flat, mechanical. You have been assigned quarters in Section 7. Your handler is waiting there. First trial begins in 2 cycles. Do you understand? Yes, Jiho said simply. Good luck, Earthborn. You will need it. Even the registration worker sounded like he thought this was pointless. Jiho found his way to Section 7. The corridors were crowded with hunters. Each time he passed someone, they stared. Some whispered. Some laughed. He kept walking. His quarters were small but clean. Inside, a woman was waiting. She stood up quickly when he entered. She was Korean like him, with long black hair tied back in a practical bun. Her uniform showed she was Earth military stationed here at the outpost. "Jiho?" she asked. "I am Hana. I have been assigned as your handler." She did not look happy. "Can I ask you something?" What was Earth thinking? Jiho set down his pack. They were thinking someone needed to represent us in the Centennial Hunt. I was available. Available? Hana's voice rose. "This is not a camping trip in the Jirisan Mountains. These are the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. The Centennial Hunt decides territorial rights for the next 100 years. Earth stands to lose mining rights in the entire Kepler sector if you fail." "I know." "Do you?" Hana pulled up a holographic display. Images of previous hunts appeared. Jiho saw hunters fighting massive creatures. He saw aliens with weapons that fired energy beams. He saw combat that looked impossible to survive. The first trial starts in 48 hours. The Crimson Wastes drop. They will scatter you across a hostile moon. Acidic rain. Predators that can rip through battle armor. Extreme temperatures. You have to survive 5 days and reach the extraction point. Jiho studied the images carefully. What do most hunters bring? What? Hana looked confused by the question. Equipment. What do most of them rely on? Everything. Advanced weapons, power armor, shield generators, food supplies for weeks. She gestured at his simple pack. You have almost nothing. Good, Jiho said quietly. Then they will underestimate me. Hana stared at him like he was crazy. Underestimate you? Jiho, they already think you are a joke. Fekrash is taking bets on how fast you will trigger your emergency beacon. The odds are not in your favor. I do not need odds in my favor. I just need to survive longer than they expect. He looked at her seriously. Hana, I know I do not look like much. I am not a soldier. I was not enhanced in any laboratory. But I know how to survive. It is what I do. It is what humans have always done. Hana wanted to argue, but something in his eyes made her pause. There was no fear there. No bravado either. Just calm certainty. The other hunters are already calling you prey, she said softly. Jiho smiled for the first time. It was a small smile, not cocky, just patient. Let them. Prey runs away. I do not run away. Outside his window, the dying star cast red light across the station. In the shadows of the docking bay, the old Kraith with the scarred face watched the humans' quarters. His name was Nakir. He had been the supreme hunter for 300 years. He had seen every kind of warrior, every kind of species, every kind of hunter. But something about this small Earthborn interested him. The way he walked past Vekrash's taunts, the way he moved through the station without fear or aggression, the way he observed everything quietly. Nakir had learned long ago that the most dangerous hunters were not always the loudest or the biggest. Sometimes the most dangerous ones were the patient ones, the quiet ones, the ones who watched and waited. He would watch this human carefully. The hunt would be very interesting indeed. The drop pods fell like meteors through the red atmosphere. Inside his pod, Jiho felt every shake and rattle. The heat was intense. Through the small window, he could see other pods falling around him, carrying the galaxy's most feared hunters toward the Crimson Wastes. The moon below looked dead. Red dust covered everything. Jagged mountains rose like broken teeth. Dark clouds swirled overhead, pregnant with acid rain. This was a place designed to kill. Impact came hard. The pod slammed into the ground and bounced twice before settling. The door blew open automatically and hot wind rushed in. Jiho grabbed his pack and stepped out into hell. The heat hit him first. It was like standing in front of an open oven. The air was thin, making each breath difficult. Red dust covered the ground, so fine it rose in clouds with each step. In the distance, he could hear roars. Native creatures hunting. His communicator crackled. All hunters, the trial has begun. You have 5 days to reach the extraction point. Your locators show the direction. Survive. Prove your worth. Glory to the worthy. Jiho checked his locator. The extraction point was 200 kilometers north. Around him, he could hear other hunters moving. Heavy footsteps. Weapons charging. Confident voices calling to their teammates. Many species hunted in packs. A roar echoed across the wastes, much closer now. Something big was moving toward the drop sites. Attracted by the noise and heat of the landing pods, Jiho did not wait to see what it was. He moved away quickly, keeping low, using the rocks for cover. He walked for 3 hours, putting distance between himself and the landing zone. Other hunters took different approaches. He saw a group of Thoraxians running at full speed, using their strength to simply smash through obstacles. Their strategy was speed and force. In the distance, he heard the sounds of combat. Someone had engaged the native predators directly. Jiho found a rocky outcrop and climbed up to survey the area. From his vantage point, he could see the landscape better. The red dust plains stretched in all directions. Mountains rose to the east. And everywhere he saw signs of life. Tracks in the dust. Bones scattered near cave entrances. The remains of something's meal. He pulled out a small notebook and started drawing. He mapped what he could see. He marked potential water sources, caves, dangerous areas. His instructors back home had taught him that knowledge was better than weapons. Understanding the environment meant surviving it. The first night came fast. The temperature dropped dramatically. What had been burning heat became freezing cold within an hour. Jiho found a small cave, checked it carefully for occupants, and settled in. He did not light a fire. Fire attracted attention. He ate sparingly from his supplies. A protein bar. Some water. Then he wrapped himself in his thermal blanket and rested, but did not truly sleep. Every few hours he woke and checked his surroundings. This was not home. This was enemy territory. On the second day, the acid rain came. Jiho heard it before he saw it. A hissing sound filled the air. The rain fell in heavy drops that burned where they touched. He watched from his cave as other hunters scrambled for cover. Those with armor were fine. Those without suffered. But Jiho noticed something interesting. Some of the native plants did not just survive the rain, they thrived in it. Their leaves opened wide, collecting the acidic water. Small creatures hid under these plants, using them as shelter. When the rain stopped, Jiho carefully examined one of these plants. Its leaves secreted a thick, oily substance that neutralized the acid. He collected some of this oil in a container. It might be useful. The third day brought the first real test. Jiho was following a dry riverbed when he heard sounds of struggle ahead. He climbed up the bank carefully and looked. A Kraith warrior was on the ground, his leg twisted at a wrong angle. His scales were smoking, burned by something. Standing over him were 2 more Kraith arguing. "We cannot carry him," one said. "He will slow us down." "Then we leave him," the other replied. "The trial is more important than one warrior." The injured Kraith's name was Boran. Jiho recognized him from the station. He had not been one of the mockers. He had just watched quietly like Jiho himself. "Wait," Boran called out weakly. "Just help me to shelter. Leave me supplies. I will trigger my beacon after you are gone. You will not be penalized." "You will die before rescue comes," the first Kraith said, not unkindly. It was just fact. Better to die with honor than waste away. They left. Boran watched them go, his expression resigned. He had accepted his fate. This was the way of hunters. The strong survived, the weak did not. Then he saw movement. The small human emerged from the rocks. Boran tensed, expecting the Earthborn to finish him. It would be mercy, really. Better than dying slowly from the toxic venom now spreading through his body. But Jiho did not attack. He knelt beside Boran and examined the wound. "What hurt you?" he asked in the common trade language. "Why do you care, soft skin?" Boran's voice was bitter. "Come to laugh at the mighty Kraith brought low?" "No, I came to help if I can." Jiho opened his medical kit. "What hurt you?" Boran stared at the human for a long moment. "Spine-tail scorpion. Small creature, very poisonous. I did not see it in time." Jiho nodded. He had seen the local scorpions. He had also seen which plants the small mammals avoided, and which they ate after being stung. He pulled out the oil he had collected and mixed it with crushed leaves from his samples. He had no idea if this would work, but doing nothing meant Boran died for certain. "This will hurt," Jiho warned. He applied the mixture to the wound. Boran roared in pain. His claws dug into the ground. But after a moment, the burning sensation began to fade. The smoking stopped. The venom was being neutralized. Jiho worked for an hour. He cleaned the wound, applied more of the mixture, and then splinted the broken leg using his rope and straight branches he found. It was not perfect, but it would work. "Why?" Boran finally asked. "Why help me? I am not your ally. My people mocked yours." Jiho finished securing the splint. "Back home in my mountains, we have a saying. The mountain does not care if you are strong or weak. It tests everyone the same. This place is like that. We are all being tested. Maybe we are also all being mocked by this moon, so why should I mock you further? He left Boron half his water and some food. The extraction point is north. If you can walk in 2 days, you might make it. If not, trigger your beacon. But you will live. Wait, Boron called as Jiho prepared to leave. What is your name, Earthborn? Jiho. Jiho, Boron repeated, testing the word. You are a strange hunter. But perhaps that is not a bad thing. The 4th day was the hardest. The twin suns rose high and the temperature became unbearable. Jiho saw several emergency beacons activate across the wastes, more hunters giving up, calling for rescue. The Thoraxians, built for quick, violent action, were struggling with the sustained heat. The Velcron assassins, adapted for short bursts of activity, were exhausted, but Jiho kept moving. He walked at a steady pace, never running, never stopping for long. He rested during the worst heat, walked during the cooler hours. He drank carefully, rationing his water. His body, evolved from ancestors who hunted across African savannas, knew how to sweat efficiently, cooling himself without wasting water. On the 5th day, he reached a ridge and saw it. The extraction point, a flat area marked with landing beacons. Already some hunters had arrived. He counted 12. Only 12 out of 100 had made it without calling for help. He walked down the ridge, his legs steady despite 5 days of constant movement. The other hunters turned to look at him. Their expressions ranged from surprise to disbelief. The small human had survived. Vekrash was there, covered in injuries from fighting the local predators. He stared at Jiho with something that might have been anger or might have been respect. It was hard to tell. Hana's voice came through his communicator. Jiho, please respond. I am here, he said simply. At extraction. Thank the stars. She sounded like she had been crying. The entire outpost has been watching the tracker data. Nobody expected. When you stopped moving on day 3, we thought you were dead. Then you started again. What happened? I helped someone, Jiho said. He did not elaborate. A few hours later, more hunters arrived. Boron was one of them, limping badly but moving on his own. When he saw Jiho, he nodded once. A small gesture, but from a Kraith warrior, it meant everything. The extraction ships arrived. As they boarded, Jiho overheard other hunters talking. Did you see the human? 5 days in the Crimson Wastes with almost no equipment. How did he survive? He has no armor, no advanced weapons. Maybe we underestimated the Earthborn. In the observation deck of the station, Nakir watched the returning hunters, his one good eye fixed on the small human walking with quiet confidence. The old warrior made a low rumbling sound that might have been approval. Interesting, he said to himself. Very interesting indeed. The first trial was over. 15 hunters had completed it without using emergency rescue. One of them was the small Earthborn that everyone had mocked. The galaxy was starting to pay attention. The second trial was announced 3 days after the Crimson Wastes. Jiho stood in the briefing hall with the 14 other hunters who had passed the first test. The hall was designed for beings much larger than him, so he stood on a raised platform just to see the display screens clearly. The hologram showed a creature that made several hunters shift nervously. It was called a Thornback Ravager. The beast stood 2 meters tall at the shoulder, 4 meters long with 6 powerful legs. Its body was covered in armored plates that overlapped like shields. Spikes ran along its spine. Its head was massive, filled with teeth designed to crush bones. But the most terrifying thing about it was the speed displayed in the footage. The creature could run at 80 kilometers per hour in short bursts. The second trial tests your skills as hunters, the announcer said. His voice echoed through the hall. Each of you will be transported to a hunting ground containing Thornback Ravagers. Your task is simple. Track, capture, and return with 1 live Ravager. You have 3 days. You may use any equipment you brought. You may use any strategy you choose. But you must return with the creature alive. Vekrash laughed, the sound booming. Finally. A real hunt, not just surviving, but proving our strength. He slammed his fist against his chest. I will have my Ravager within the first day. Other hunters nodded, looking confident. They had weapons, armor, traps, and technology. This was what they trained for their whole lives. Jiho stayed quiet, studying the images carefully. The Ravager was an apex predator, perfectly designed for its environment. But every creature had weaknesses. Every perfect design had a flaw. He just needed to find it. Hana found him after the briefing. Jiho, did you see the size of those things? Their armor deflects most energy weapons. Their speed makes them almost impossible to chase. How are you planning to catch one? I need to see them first, Jiho said. Understand how they behave. Then I will know. You have 3 days. That should be enough. The hunting ground was a forested region on the station's biodome level. The forest was thick with alien trees that had purple leaves and silver bark. The ground was soft, good for tracking. 2 artificial suns provided light and heat. Somewhere in this forest, the Ravagers roamed. Jiho was dropped at the edge of the forest with his basic pack. He immediately looked for signs. Tracks in the soft earth, broken branches, droppings. The Ravagers were territorial, so they would have regular paths they patrolled. Within an hour, he found tracks. The prints were deep, showing the creature's weight. The stride length told him about its walking pace. He followed carefully, not trying to catch up, just learning. He found a water source, a stream with clear water. Around it, multiple sets of tracks overlapped. This was a gathering place. He noted it on his mental map and continued. By evening of the first day, he had found where a Ravager slept. A large depression in the ground. Surrounded by chewed bones and torn vegetation, the creature ate, slept, and then hunted again. A simple cycle. He heard sounds through the forest. Other hunters were attempting their captures. An explosion shook the trees. Someone was using heavy weapons. There was roaring, both from hunters and Ravagers. The sounds of combat echoed constantly. Jiho kept moving, kept learning. He saw how the Ravagers responded to threats. When a Thoraxian tried to fight one directly, the creature used its speed to dodge, then counterattacked with devastating force. The Thoraxian barely escaped, triggering his emergency beacon. When a group of Velcron assassins tried to trap one with nets, the Ravager's armor protected it while it tore through their equipment. The assassins retreated, injured and defeated. The creatures were too strong to fight directly, too fast to chase, too smart to trap easily. Every conventional approach failed, but Jiho noticed something. After each burst of speed, each fight, the Ravagers stopped to rest. They panted heavily. Their mouths hung open. They sought shade and water. They were built for explosive power, not sustained effort. He understood now. He knew exactly how to catch one. On the morning of the second day, Jiho found a lone Ravager near the stream. It was a large male, drinking water peacefully. Beautiful in its deadly way, he studied it for a moment, then deliberately stepped on a branch. The crack was loud in the quiet forest. The Ravager's head snapped up. Its eyes locked onto the small human. For a moment, neither moved. Then Jiho did something that no other hunter had done. He started running away. Not fast, not in panic, just a steady jog. He ran in the open where the Ravager could see him. The creature's instincts took over. Something was running. Running meant prey. It charged after him with a roar that shook the trees. The ground trembled under its pounding feet. It accelerated to full speed, closing the distance in seconds. Jiho veered to the side just before it reached him. The Ravager tried to turn, but its momentum carried it forward. It slid past him, crashing into a tree. It shook its head, angry now, and charged again. Again, Jiho dodged at the last moment. Again, the creature missed. This time, Jiho noticed it was breathing harder. The burst of speed cost energy. He started running again. The same steady pace. Not sprinting, just jogging. The Ravager chased. But this time, Jiho did not let it get close enough for a burst attack. He kept the distance perfect. Close enough to keep the creature interested. Far enough to avoid its charges. Hours passed. Jiho maintained his pace. His body, evolved for exactly this kind of hunting, kept moving efficiently. Sweat cooled his skin. His breathing stayed steady. His legs carried him in a rhythm that he could maintain for a very long time. The Ravager was confused. Prey did not act like this. Prey either ran fast or fought or hid. This small creature just kept moving at the same annoying pace. The Ravager chased, but every time it got close, the human adjusted position. Never stopping, never truly fleeing, just always moving. The creature tried to disengage several times. It would stop, turn away, attempt to return to its territory. But every time it stopped, Jiho stopped too, and waited. And when the Ravager tried to rest, Jiho would make noise or throw a stone. Nothing harmful, just enough to disturb it, to keep it moving. The second sun reached its highest point. The heat was intense. The Ravager was panting constantly now. Its tongue hung out. Its movements were slower. But still it chased, driven by instinct and frustration. Jiho checked his internal clock. 14 hours. He had been doing this for 14 hours. His legs ached. His throat was dry. But he could continue. He had trained for this his entire life, even if he did not know it. Every mountain hike back home. Every long walk. Every time he pushed through tiredness. It was all preparation for this moment. The Ravager stumbled. Its legs were shaking. The massive creature that could run 80 kilometers per hour could not maintain any speed now. It was exhausted beyond anything it had ever experienced. Jiho slowed his pace but kept moving. The creature tried to follow, but its body was failing. It walked now, not ran. Its breathing was desperate, gasping. Finally, as the second sun began to set, the Ravager collapsed. It fell onto its side, chest heaving, unable to move. Its eyes showed confusion and something like respect. It had never been defeated this way. It did not understand what had happened. Jiho approached carefully. The creature tried to rise but could not. He pulled out a sedative from his pack, something Hana had given him. He administered it carefully, and the Ravager's eyes slowly closed. It would sleep for several hours. He sat down next to the sleeping beast and finally allowed himself to rest. His legs trembled. His whole body hurt. But he had done it. Not with strength. Not with weapons. Just with patience and endurance. It took him the entire third day to drag the sedated Ravager back to the extraction point. He used ropes and leverage, working slowly and carefully. Several times the creature began to wake, and he had to wait for the sedation to take full effect again. When he emerged from the forest, dragging the massive creature behind him, the gathered crowd fell silent. Hunters who had returned with nothing stared. Those who had returned injured stared harder. Even the successful hunters who had used advanced weapons and team tactics looked shocked. Jiho secured the Ravager in the containment field and straightened up. Every muscle in his body screamed with pain. He had walked, by his estimate, over 200 kilometers in the last 2 days. But he had completed the trial. Vekrash pushed through the crowd. The big Kraith looked angry, but there was something else in his eyes too. "What technology did you use?" he demanded. "What weapon? What trick?" Jiho looked up at the massive alien. His voice was calm, matter-of-fact. "No technology. No weapon, I just ran. The Ravager is built for speed and power. Beautiful design, but it cannot maintain that effort. So I made it chase me until it could not chase anymore." "That is impossible," another hunter said. "No one can run for that long." "Humans can," Jiho said simply. "My ancestors hunted like this for 200,000 years. Before we had spears or arrows, we hunted by chasing. We ran animals to exhaustion. We did not stop because we were the strongest. We stopped because we ran out of things to hunt on our homeworld." The crowd was silent. They were beginning to understand something terrifying. The small, weak-looking humans were not weak at all. They were just dangerous in a different way. A patient way. An inevitable way. The announcement came during the rest period between trials. Jiho was in his quarters, treating his sore muscles and blistered feet when Hana rushed in. Her face was pale. "The final trial has been announced," she said, her voice shaking. "Jiho, it is combat. Single combat in the pit of calling." Jiho looked up from wrapping his ankle. "Who do I fight?" Hana activated her tablet. The hologram showed the bracket. 8 hunters remained from the original 100. Each would face one opponent in single combat. The matches were decided by ancient lottery, drawing lots before witnesses to ensure fairness. "They just drew the lots," Hana said. She looked like she might cry. "Jiho, you drew Nakir." The name hung in the air like a weight. Nakir, the supreme hunter. The living legend. 300 years of combat experience, undefeated in the pit. He had trained countless warriors. He had fought in wars that ended species. His name was spoken with respect across the entire galaxy. "I see," Jiho said quietly. He continued wrapping his ankle. "You see? That is all you can say?" Hana sat down hard on the bunk. "Jiho, nobody beats Nakir, nobody. He is not just skilled. He is perfect. The betting pools will not even accept wagers on your survival. They are only taking bets on how many seconds you will last. How many seconds do they think? 30. The average is 30 seconds. She put her head in her hands. "I am sorry. I know you have done amazingly. You survived the Crimson Wastes. You caught a Ravager using impossible methods. You have proven that humans are more than anyone thought. But this is different. Nakir is the best warrior alive, maybe the best who has ever lived. Jiho finished with his ankle and started on his other foot. His movements were careful and methodical. Tell me about him. Not the legend. The warrior. How does he fight? Hana pulled up footage. He is perfect in every way. Watch. The hologram showed Nakir in previous battles. Jiho watched carefully. The old Kraith moved like water, flowing from one position to another. His strikes were efficient, not wasted. He never used more force than necessary. He adapted to each opponent instantly, finding weaknesses, exploiting openings. His experience showed in every movement. He has no obvious weakness, Hana said. He is too smart to be tricked, too experienced to be surprised, too strong to be overpowered, and he has never ever shown mercy in the pit. Everyone has weaknesses, Jiho said. Even perfection has flaws. What flaw? Tell me what flaw you see in that. Jiho was quiet for a moment, watching the footage again. Then he said something strange. He is old. He is 300 years old, yes. So, his species lives for 500 years. He is in his prime by Kraith standards. No, Jiho said. I mean, he has lived 300 years of combat. 300 years of being the strongest, the fastest, the best. His body knows only victory. It has forgotten how to struggle. That makes him weaker? Maybe. Or maybe it makes him unprepared for something new. Jiho stood up, testing his weight on his feet. The pain was there but manageable. I cannot beat him with strength. I cannot beat him with skill. But maybe I can beat him by simply refusing to lose. The day of the final trial arrived. The Pit of Calling was a massive arena in the center of the station. Thousands of aliens filled the stands. Representatives from hundreds of worlds came to watch. This was not just about the hunt anymore. This was about witnessing the supreme hunter fight. Jiho walked through the entrance tunnel. The roar of the crowd was deafening. He wore simple combat clothing, no armor. He carried no weapons, just himself. On the opposite side, Nakir entered. The crowd's roar became even louder. The old Kraith walked with quiet dignity. His lighter scales showed his age, and the scars covering his body told stories of countless battles. His one blind eye was milky white, but the other eye was sharp and clear. He wore ceremonial armor that had been gifted to him by grateful planets. At his side hung the Talon of Valdris, a blade that had ended 1,000 lives. The two fighters approached the center of the pit. They stood facing each other. Jiho had to look up to meet Nakir's gaze. The height difference was enormous. The weight difference was probably 5-1. Any analysis would say this fight was already over. Then Nakir did something that shocked everyone watching. He removed his ceremonial armor piece by piece. He set down the Talon of Valdris carefully, treating the ancient weapon with respect. He stood in simple cloth like Jiho. I am Nakir, Supreme Hunter of Valdris, he said. His voice was deep and calm. I have watched you, small Earthborn. I watched you in the Crimson Wastes when others said you would die the first day. I watched you hunt the Ravager when others said it was impossible. You do not fight like prey. Prey runs away in fear. You run with purpose. You hunt with patience. You endure when others fail. The crowd was silent, listening to every word. I will face you with only what nature gave me, Nakir continued. My strength, my speed, my experience. No armor to protect me. No weapons to extend my reach. You have shown the galaxy that humanity deserves respect. Now show me the truth of your species. Show me why the small Earthborn might be the most dangerous hunter of all. The judge called for the match to begin. For a moment, neither fighter moved. Then Nakir attacked. His speed was incredible. One moment he was standing still. The next his fist was flying toward Jiho's head. Jiho barely dodged, feeling the wind of the strike pass his ear. The force behind it would have shattered his skull. Nakir did not pause. He flowed into another attack, then another. Each strike was precise, powerful, meant to end the fight. Jiho moved constantly, dodging, weaving, backing away. He could not block these strikes. One solid hit and he was done. But Jiho had learned something important in his years teaching survival. Sometimes the best way to deal with overwhelming force was to not be there when it arrived. He did not try to match Nakir's strength. He simply avoided it. Minutes passed. Jiho had not thrown a single attack. He just moved, constantly moved, making Nakir miss or hit empty air. The crowd was confused. Was the human just delaying the inevitable? Nakir suddenly changed tactics. He swept low, trying to take Jiho's legs. Jiho jumped, barely avoiding it. But Nakir had expected this. His other hand came up fast. Jiho twisted in midair, and the strike clipped his shoulder instead of his chest. Pain exploded through him. He hit the ground and rolled away before Nakir could follow up. Now Jiho's left arm hung uselessly. His shoulder was damaged, maybe broken. The crowd murmured. This was the beginning of the end. But Jiho stood up. He settled back into his stance. He kept moving. You take damage and do not fall, Nakir observed, circling him. Interesting. But you must attack eventually, small one. You cannot win by running forever. I am not running, Jiho said, his breath coming hard. I am hunting. He darted forward suddenly, not attacking Nakir's center mass or head where the Kraith expected. Instead, he struck at Nakir's leading knee using his good arm. It was not a powerful strike, but it was targeted. Pressure points existed in every species. Then he was away again before Nakir could counter. Nakir's leg buckled slightly. It was barely noticeable, but it was there. The crowd gasped. Had the human actually hurt the Supreme Hunter? The pattern continued. Jiho avoided the devastating attacks, taking only glancing blows that he could survive. And whenever he saw an opening, he struck at joints, at pressure points, at places where size did not matter as much. Each strike was small, almost insignificant. But they accumulated. An hour passed. Then 2. The crowd watched in growing amazement. Both fighters were tiring, but they were tiring at different rates. Nakir, despite his experience and skill, was built for decisive combat. His species ended fights quickly. But this fight was not ending. Every time he thought he had the human cornered, Jiho slipped away, and slowly Nakir was slowing down. His strikes were still powerful, but they came a fraction of a second slower. His breathing was labored. His movements, while still skilled, were becoming heavy. 300 years of victories had not prepared him for this. For an opponent who did not try to win quickly, for an opponent who simply refused to stop, Jiho was exhausted too. His body was covered in bruises. His shoulder screamed with every movement. But his legs still moved. His breath still came steadily. This was what humans did. They endured. They persisted. They continued when everything said they should stop. Nakir launched another combination of attacks. Jiho dodged 2, took a third on his damaged shoulder, and somehow stayed on his feet. He countered with a strike to Nakir's ribs, hitting the same spot he had hit 3 times before. The old warrior grunted in pain. Then something changed in Nakir's eye. Not anger, not frustration, recognition, understanding. He was experiencing something he had not felt in 300 years. He was losing, not because his opponent was stronger or faster or more skilled, but because his opponent simply would not stop. Could not be stopped, would endure until the end of time itself if necessary. Jiho saw it too. The moment when Nakir understood, when the Supreme Hunter realized he was fighting something beyond his experience, a human, a persistence predator, a species that won by simply outlasting everything else, Nakir stopped his attack. He stood straight despite the pain in his body, despite his labored breathing, and then he did something unprecedented in 300 years of combat. He raised his hand, palm forward. The medical bay was quiet except for the soft hum of healing equipment. Jiho lay on a bed designed for beings much larger than him, his arm in a regeneration field. The device worked slowly on his broken shoulder, knitting bone and tissue back together. It would take days to fully heal, but the pain had already decreased significantly. Hana sat beside him, still processing what had happened. The entire galaxy is talking about you, she said, showing him her tablet. Every newsfeed, every communication channel, the human who made the Supreme Hunter yield. I did not make him do anything, Jiho said quietly. He chose to yield. That was his decision. But you were winning. Everyone could see it. You were outlasting him. She scrolled through the feeds. The analysts are going crazy. They are reviewing all their data on human physiology. Some are calling it impossible. Others are demanding Earth reveal what genetic modifications you have. I have no modifications. I am just a normal human. That is what terrifies them. Hana looked at him seriously. Do you understand what you have done? You have changed how the galaxy sees humanity. We were prey species to them. Weak, harmless. Now they are calling us something else. What are they calling us? Persistence predators. Endurance hunters. The patient death. She set down the tablet. Ships are already being rerouted to Earth. Governments want to open trade negotiations. Military alliances want to discuss mutual defense. Everyone wants to know more about humans. Because if one ordinary human can do what you did, what could millions of trained human soldiers do? Jiho was quiet for a moment. He had not thought about these larger implications. He had just been trying to survive, to represent Earth well, to not embarrass his homeworld. The door to the medical bay opened. Nakir entered, moving carefully. His own injuries were being treated, though he had refused the regeneration technology. Scars are lessons, he had told the doctors. I wish to remember this lesson. Brother, Nakir greeted Jiho. The word still sounded strange to Hana's ears. The Supreme Hunter calling a human his brother. Brother, Jiho responded, starting to sit up. Rest, Nakir commanded gently. Your body needs healing. He pulled up a chair and sat, his large frame making the furniture creak. I have come to apologize. For what? For my species. For the Kraith Dominion. For myself? Nakir's good eye looked tired. We mocked you. We called you soft skin. We laughed at your size. We were fools. Blind fools who judged a hunter by appearance rather than ability. You did not mock me, Jiho pointed out. You watched. I watched because I sensed something others missed. But I did not defend you. I did not speak against Vekrash and the others. That was wrong. Nakir leaned forward. In our culture, we value strength above all. Power. Dominance. We have built our entire civilization on the idea that the strong survive and the weak perish. But you have shown us a different kind of strength. One we had forgotten existed. What kind? The strength to continue, to endure, to persist when all others would fail. Nakir gestured at his scarred body. I have fought in wars that destroyed planets. I have defeated opponents of every species. I thought I understood combat. But I never faced anyone like you. Anyone who won not by being stronger, but by simply refusing to lose. Hana spoke up. If you do not mind me asking, Supreme Hunter, why did you yield? The fight could have continued. You still had strength. Nakir was quiet for a long moment. Because I saw the future. I saw that the fight would continue for hours more. Days perhaps. And at the end, I would be the one who could not rise. Not because Jiho defeated me with skill or power, but because his body would simply outlast mine. That is not a shameful defeat. That is reality. And I am too old to deny reality. He stood up slowly. I have spent the last hours speaking with the Council of Valdris. We are changing the protocols for first contact with humanity. Your species will no longer be classified as low threat. You are being reclassified as extreme-level endurance predators. That seems dramatic, Jiho said, is it? Nakir's expression was serious. Let me tell you what our xenobiologists discovered when they finally studied human evolution properly. Your species evolved by chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. You hunted animals faster and stronger than you by simply running them to death. You are one of the best endurance runners in the known galaxy. You can regulate body temperature in ways most species cannot. You can go days without sleep. You can survive injuries that would kill others. And most terrifying of all, you do this naturally. This is not training or enhancement. This is what humans are. He walked toward the door, then paused. The galaxy needs to understand this. Not to fear humanity, but to respect it. To know that the small, quiet beings from Earth are not prey. They are hunters. Perhaps the most patient hunters that exist. After Nakir left, Hana looked at Jiho. What happens now? You are famous. Earth will want you to do speeches, appearances, recruitment for the military. Everyone wants the human who defeated the Supreme Hunter. I did not defeat him. We fought to mutual understanding. Try telling that to the news networks. She smiled slightly. But seriously, Jiho, what will you do? Jiho thought about his mountains back home, his small cabin, his students who came to learn about survival, the quiet life he had before all of this. I want to go home. Really? You could have anything. Money, position, fame. You could write your own future. I already know my future. It is teaching. Helping people understand how to survive, how to endure. He looked at his healing shoulder. This experience taught me something important. Survival is not about being the strongest or the fastest. It is about being the one who does not give up. I want to teach that. 3 days later, Jiho stood at the departure terminal. His shoulder was healed enough for travel. His bags were packed. He wore simple civilian clothes, looking like any other traveler. But people recognized him. They stepped aside as he walked. Some bowed slightly. A few asked for his signature or a photograph. Vekrash appeared in the crowd. The big Kraith warrior approached slowly, his expression unreadable. He stopped in front of Jiho and to everyone's surprise bowed his head. Not a full bow, but an acknowledgement of respect. I was wrong about you, Earthborn, Vekrash said. I judged without understanding. That was dishonorable. He straightened up. Your species are not soft skins. You are something else. Something we should have recognized. What should you have recognized? That the galaxy's history is filled with examples. The patient hunter always wins in the end. Always. We just forgot to look for patience instead of power. Vekrash stepped aside. Travel safely, human. And know that if your species ever needs allies, the Kraith Dominion will remember this lesson. Boran was also there. The warrior Jiho had saved in the Crimson Wastes. His leg had healed well. He clasped Jiho's hand in the human way, having learned the gesture. Thank you, brother. Not just for saving my life, but for showing us a better way to think about strength. The boarding call sounded. Jiho picked up his bag and headed toward his ship. At the gate, Nakir waited with Hana. The old warrior handed Jiho a small package. What is this? Jiho asked. A gift. Open it when you return home. Nakir placed one massive hand on Jiho's good shoulder. You have changed the galaxy, little brother. Whether you wanted to or not. Humanity will no longer be overlooked. But remember, with respect comes responsibility. Your species will need good teachers. People who understand that strength comes in many forms. Be that teacher. I will try. That is all anyone can do. Try, endure, continue. Nakir smiled, showing his sharp teeth. It should have been frightening, but somehow it was not. The Brotherhood of Hunters will always have a place for you. If you ever return to Valdris, you will be welcomed with the highest honors. Hana hugged Jiho, surprising him. You did good. Better than good. You made Earth proud. Made humanity proud. Thank you. The ship that took Jiho home was small and quiet. He sat by a window watching the stars pass. Other passengers whispered and pointed, but mostly left him alone. He was grateful for that. He opened Nakir's package. Inside was a small blade, clearly ancient, made from some dark metal he did not recognize. A note accompanied it, written in the common trade language. This was the first blade I ever carried. 300 years I kept it. Now I give it to you. Not because I need a new blade, but because I have learned a new lesson. May it serve you as well as it served me. Your brother in the hunt, Nakir. Jiho held the blade carefully. It was balanced perfectly, worn smooth by centuries of use. He would treasure it, not because it was valuable, but because of what it represented. Understanding, respect, brotherhood across species. When he finally arrived home, the mountains of Korea welcomed him like an old friend. The air was clean and cool. The forests were green and peaceful. His cabin looked exactly as he had left it, small and simple and perfect. His students were waiting. They had seen the news. They had questions, excitement, awe, but Jiho just smiled and told them to prepare for class. Today, he said, we will talk about endurance, about patience, about the power of simply continuing when everything tells you to stop. These are the oldest lessons humanity knows, and they are still the most important. He taught that day as he had taught 1,000 days before, showing his students how to read the forest, how to find water,